Well, it's the end of the week, and we finally got to see India register their first victory in the World Cup, a much needed victory, albeit not exactly in the greatest of circumstances. We will talk about that and much more. Jeet Bhai and Neha with us as usual. And as usual, we will start off with the game that ended, an hour ago probably. I know it's a tad bit late, but we thought 11 o'clock would be set, kare, so we'll stick to it. Scotland versus West Indies was the game that happened at night. And that was an interesting game. Again, scorecard dekhoge to lage yaar, West Indies thrashed Scotland, and scampered home for a six-wicket victory. But to be honest, Scotland definitely have nothing to lose. From the way they played, the way they really went about their business was very, very, very good, very professional. Let's have the match summary out. I'll just go through it before I open it up to Neha and Jeet. Scotland won the toss and opted to bat first. That since because India and Scotland opted to bat first, we were also a tad bit surprised क्योंकि हमने अपनी team previews में तो बोला ऐसा कि यार पहले batting कर लो simple है. But on day one in Dubai, which was the day before, we saw both teams opting to bowl first and end up winning the games as well. Wasn't the case this time around. Scotland and India opted to bat first. Scotland, of course, ended up only with 99 for 8. Their batting never really got going. Sarah Bryce, who was the highest run scorer from last time, was dismissed very early on thanks to that scintillating spell from Chinelle Henry in the power play. Ailsa Lister, Catherine Bryce did sort of seem to take Scotland to some semblance of a nice total. 59 for 2 is what they were at when Ailsa Lister got. No, it was probably Catherine Bryce who got her then. Later on, Ailsa Lister also followed home when she wasn't able to connect the juicy full toss from Effie Fletcher, something she will want to think a lot more about. They somehow huffed and puffed their way to 99 for 8. Was never really going to be easy for them from there. But again, the way they bowled in the power play, getting the likes of Hayley Matthews, then Stephanie Taylor. There was also Kiana Joseph who, let's just say she somehow managed to get those boundaries and survive the power play. We'd spoken about her as well. It's all about her managing to survive the power play and spinners and all of that. She will be able to attack them at ease, and at ease is what she was able to do. 31 for 18, highest run scorer for them. Deandra Doughton once again back in the business. It was nice to see her, dish out a couple of those, very attacking shots. Something we've always known her for. It's a comeback for her in the Windies colours. Did not really contribute in the first game. Wasn't the case this time around. So all in all, a solid performance for West Indies to be happy about, and something that'll help them boost their morale considering they'll next be playing Bangladesh in Sharjah the day after, on Thursday, sorry. Scotland, on the other hand, again, bowling wise, so it looks sorted. They are going the right direction, the way they're bowling, the way they're catching, importantly. We saw the catch by Priyana's strategy there, and we have to be proud of that catch. Because उसी same position में हमने आज दोपहर को देखा है 2 drops, 2 आज ही के दिन मिसफील्ड्स की बात भी नहीं करे, सिर्फ ड्रॉप्स की बात करे. So ठीक है, जो होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है, I guess. But again, Jeet, let's start off with you in terms of how we saw the first innings pan out. Scotland opted to bat first. You could see why they were trying to do that, due potentially not being the factor here. But all in all, that performance still, man, they have to improve their batting.
They do, and it was a good start. I thought Saskia Orley was off the blocks rather quickly. Uske baad, I think that spell from Chinelle Henry put the brakes on very, very early on them, and there was no looking back from there onwards. So it became very, very challenging because 2 of your main players were out very, very early. Sarah Bryce and Saskia Orley. And then it was up to the resurrection that, again, Catherine Bryce had to do, Ailsa Lister had to do. But it was always going to be a catch-up game that they had to play in order to get to a decent total. So it was always going to be a struggle, once those key batters were out. Because we have talked about it, the reliance is upon the top 3 to get most of the job done, to get the team to a respectable total, to find the boundaries and all that stuff. So with 2 of them gone early, it was always going to be a challenge. But having said that, I still thought that, they still did a decent job to get to that 100 mark. I know it was always going to be slightly lesser given the historical conditions over here and against a fiery West Indies attack as well. So decent one, but they would still be disappointed because they would have wanted more runs, because at the end of the day, you never know, maybe 20 runs more and this game could have been very, very equally poised had they've been able to dismiss Deandra Doughton early. But sadly, that didn't happen for them. So they've been disappointed as far as the batting performance is concerned.
Yeah, and again, Neha, in terms of sort of, the way the batters went about their business, we saw in Sharjah as well. There, you could still give them the benefit of doubt. Bangla spinners, that's the kind of spin quality they often don't get to face. So it'll take them some time. But यहाँ पे the conditions were a lot more in their favor compared to Dubai. But despite that, they couldn't really get those runs. Fair enough, ठीक है. But all in all, if you had to sort of, talk about the batting lineup, are there any strengths that you're looking at apart from the Bryce sisters, of course.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Scotland side as well, there is an obvious tendency to depend a lot on the Bryce sisters to get you those starts and kind of be the cog around which the batting revolves, and that is a trend that cannot be avoided. Yet, I think the way Saskia Hordley batted, the way Jeet rightly pointed out a little earlier, that the way she got to that great start, got you those two boundaries up front. I think that was kind of refreshing, right? I think if she had some more time at the crease, we probably see her get some more runs and kind of just help Scotland's cause as well. And even Ailsa Lister for that matter, although her strike rate is like in the 70s, I'm pretty sure if she did not was not in a situation where wickets were falling around her, I think she could have probably accelerated and got you those runs. And even Priyana's strategy, right? She's another person I think we've been talking about so highly, like the fielding effort of hers today that I think we will reflect upon was stellar. And even just looking at her batting outings, in like regional cricket and domestic cricket, I thought, maybe she'll also get you those crucial runs when she was out for a golden duck. So maybe it's time for some of the other batters in that Scotland unit to kind of step up and deliver, because the over dependence on the Bryce sisters is clearly coming through. And I'm sure, when they won the toss and decided to bat first, they would have wanted to go for a total of, say, 120 or 140, because, at least that would be, say, defendable versus a very dangerous West Indies unit that was anyways coming from a loss, right? So in that sense, probably if they regroup and get their, like basics right, I think we'll see a much more improved batting effort from them going ahead.
Fair enough. And again, before we sort of continue with this chat, I know a lot of you asking us in the comments about the India game. We will talk about it. Jani going on to us. So, do we laugh or cry about the fact that Jimmy walked in at 3? We will discuss this and a lot more about the India game, because we've set a pattern ki hum pehle, like I mentioned earlier, logistics jargon, last and first out, वैसा वाला सीन है. तो अभी recently game खत्म हुआ, so it's still fresh in our mind. India Pakistan को तो सब याद रखेंगे, तो पता है, तो इसीलिए we're not really too flustered about it. Questions need to be asked about Smriti never having performed in ICC events. Bit of a stretch to say never having performed. मतलब यार क्यों? And Bangladesh is San Marino of cricket. I know the country San Marino. I don't know if that's the reference here. क्या चल रहा है यहाँ पे? But ठीक है Tanveer, we'll take your word at face value. Now, coming back, of course, to the game, Scotland-West Indies. Sure, Scotland's batting did not really do as well as they would have wanted to. West Indies, on the other hand, were coming off a 10-wicket loss. They were not able to take a single wicket against South Africa. The bowling changes were all over the place. A far cry that way in terms of how they performed, how their bowling in particular performed. We will be talking about a few key performers, of course. But apart from that, again, Neha, let's start with you on that West Indies bowling effort. Afi Fletcher in the middle over, Chinelle Henry up top. All in all, that was a very well-rounded bowling attack that actually played to their potential today.
Definitely, and it was such a refreshing sight from their past match, right? Because here we really saw them, kind of put all of those strategies and plans into execution. I think Chinelle Henry, she bowled brilliantly. I think we spoke about this off air as well. The way she was able to get the ball to move, the pace and everything, just conceding 10 runs in her 4 overs, very deservingly, awarded player of the match. We also had, Afi Fletcher, chip in with those 3 wickets. I think she looked in brilliant control, was able to derive so much from the surface and actually challenge the Scotland batters. Because I think briefly there was a point, right, where Catherine Bryce and Ailsa Lister were kind of building on a partnership. But, the way she came in and, got you those wickets, that was really nice to see. And I mean, just looking at the rest of the bowling attack as well, right? You had Hayley Matthews come in, get you a wicket. In the first match, we were just, very concerned with, yaar, ye kya chal raha hai? Like, why did you bring in certain bowlers at this point in time? But today, I think it was spot on, she was able to just get those field positions right, get the right bowlers at the right time. And I think that was definitely nice to see. And West Indies will be proud of their bowling effort, because restricting Scotland to 99, where at one stage they could have, possibly exceeded that 100 mark, was definitely nice to see.
And Jeet, what did you make of those changes? Of course, Zaida James missing out because of the hit, so she was still recuperating. But Shamilia Kunil also going out, and they brought in Ashwini Munisar. And I'm forgetting who was the other change. But yeah, like, what did you make of Shamilia Kunil also walking out?
Yeah, I think they got Chidian Nation as well into the 11. That's what Hayley Matthews had mentioned. But it's what we exactly discussed yesterday, right? If you want to have Shamilia Kunil into your side, then utilize her with the new ball. If you don't want to utilize her with the new ball, if you're planning to bring her in the 9th over of the game, like it happened in the first game, then there is no point whatsoever. You'd rather not have her on the side and invest in somebody else. And that's luckily exactly what happened tonight. with Ashwini Munizar coming into the side. And of course, Zeda James. So I did see her, sitting in the dugout. So if you remember, she was hit on the chin, but the initial impact was on her hand. So she had her left hand strapped. So that was the key reason why she sat out. But good in terms of strategy as well, because we have talked about how they've been struggling to pick up new ball wickets. Their numbers have been horrible. And that is where, they have gotten into a situation where they have to depend upon the spinners to provide those early breakthroughs. But then when you're opening with two pacers who have also been ineffective, then there is no point. So it was important or imperative for one of the spinners to share the new ball, which is what Hayley Matthews, did. She put her hand up, she shared the new ball, Chinelle Henry, and that combination worked really, really well for them. So I was really happy to see all the tactics that they deployed, even the bowling changes were like fairly good. Karishma Rambarak, of course, bowling her 4 over spell was a decent spell. I know she's a little bit wavered, but still decent overall. The only surprise is the fact that Kiana Joseph just rolled her arm off for 1 over, which also happened in the back end. So that was the only surprise. But still, overall, 20 overs, it was still an impressive effort by the West Indies. It was again that catching that was a bit of a letdown because they put down 4 catches, which is a lot higher than what Scotland also put down. Scotland just put down 1 catch and that's it. So West Indies on the field were not that good. DeAndre Doughton was outstanding again in terms of backing up her bowlers with her ground fielding. She was quick. Even one of the catches that she took was absolutely outstanding. But anyway, coming back to the bowling, I think it was a fantastic effort by all of the bowlers, I would say. AP Fletcher, of course, giving those 3 crucial wickets in the middle phase. Of course, one of them was of a full banger, which was of Ailsa Lister. But even that wicket, I observed a bit of a pattern. And it was Stephanie Taylor. I'm just guessing it was Stephanie Taylor at backward point because she was placed in a position where she doesn't have to run a lot. So she was probably stationed at backward point, and AP Fletcher was about to bowl when she was stopped from AP Fletcher at backward point. Sorry, from Stephanie Taylor at backward point, and then Stephanie told Hayley Matthews about a switch. So Hayley Matthews made a switch of the mid-on fielder and the cow corner fielder, which basically meant that Karishma Ramarak went from mid-on to cow corner. And the very next ball, the catch was taken by Ramarak at cow corner. Although, like I mentioned, it was a full banger, but I don't know what happened, what was the logic behind that, because the other fielder was Alia Ali, who also was strapped up in her right arm. So maybe that could have been the reason. But it was something that I just observed, a random pattern, and it really worked out well. So good from West Indies. A huge shift in terms of the confidence, the planning, tactics, bowling changes, everything from game 1 to game 2.
Yeah, for sure. And you could see the think tank and the way they were invested in the game. Clearly, they had put in a lot of thought into how they want to bowl, how they want to field, and importantly, how they would catch. But unfortunately, on the execution front, of course, catching wasn't exactly the greatest. But they'll still take this game in their stride and they'll move on. Speaking of which, of course, sports fan going on to ask us, can West Indies qualify for the semis from here? What results do they need in favor? They just have to win all their games, because as things stand, the net run rate is the healthiest of all the teams in that table. So they are ranked 1 right now. So should they defeat England and Bangladesh, in all likelihood, they will go through, because you would imagine that England and South Africa, apart from their own fixture, will win every other game. So you never know. West Indies, you're saying the West Indies win all their remaining games also, they won't.
No, they have to win all the games, but also NRR will become a factor. The other team is South Africa. So it's Australia and South Africa, both of whom have just played 1 game.
Not Australia, South Africa and England.
No, you mentioned England.
England is group mein to.
Sorry, England and South Africa, but both of them have played just the 1 game. So it will eventually come down to that net run rate between one of the 2 teams, which would also have West Indies. So they'll have to keep one eye upon the net run rate as well. But of course, they'll have to win all the other games as well, which is going to be really important. Which that other team is something we'll figure out tomorrow once the game is done.
Exactly. We will talk about it. But fair enough. So in terms of how, as things stand, West Indies should only focus on winning their games. Baki ka baad mein dekhenge. Simple as that. But lastly, of course, one bit of formality. We will talk about the top performer of the day, Chinelle Henry, with that all-round performance there. 18 of 10 with the bat, ensuring West Indies chase it down without any fuss. And with the ball, in particular, 4 overs, 2 maidens, 10 runs, 1 wicket. She bowled 4 right off the cuff. She bowled 4 at the beginning. And it was very smart of Hayley Matthews, not trying to save an over of her for the back end and all of that. Bhai, aggressively captain karte hain, chupchap ball achhi dal rahi. She's in great rhythm. She's getting the ball to move. Let's just give her the 4th over on the trot, and solid performance. That Jeet, let's start with you. Like the way she was getting the ball to move, into the right-handers. It was just like it was really a dream to watch.
Yeah, that's tactically one of the things that we've been talking about, right? If you've got a pacer that relies upon movement with the new ball, and if they are extracting decent movement, then it's probably worth it to have them bowl 4 overs up front, do as much damage as they can, and that's exactly what Hayley Matthews asked of Chinelle Henry, and she was outstanding. Yeah, even the commentators were talking about the change from game one to game two in terms of the lines and the lengths that she was hitting. She was very, very accurate over here, and even the kind of lines that she adjusted in that over against Sarah Bryce. If you remember, there was one ball that shaped away sharply, but it was well outside the off stump. 2 balls later, it was a very similar ball, but it was in line with stumps that saw Sarah Bryce play the exactly same shot, but got beaten on the outside edge and was castled. But besides that as well, what stood out with me for Chinelle Henry was the fact that she was operating at a very, very high pace. Hitting a tops of 117 is something I didn't really anticipate. I know she's quick, but not this quick. So right now, in the entire tournament, she's the second quickest pacer in terms of the average pace on speeds. And number 3 is Ale, which makes West Indies as the quickest pace attack so far in the tournament. So that has been outstanding from both these pacers. And the consistency at which she was hitting that mark was very, very good to see, because bowling 4 overs on the trot is not easy. It was still like 33 degrees or 34 degrees Celsius, so it was not easy. And to be so accurate and still be bowling at that 115 mark in her last over as well kind of stood out, and you could see that impact that she had straight away in the power play. And by the time she was done, I think Scotland were in trouble, having lost 2 of the crucial batters.
Yeah, and that power play is pretty much why they, sort of set the game for themselves and ensured कि यार यहाँ से तो अभी game हार नहीं सकते, because Scotland were just trying to rebuild. But Neha, final thoughts in terms of how West Indies are, sort of looking like, because first game they just looked down and out, but this time around, I know Scotland is not the strongest of sides, but their own performance was still top notch.
Yeah, I mean, West Indies will definitely take a world of confidence from an outing like this, right? Because unlike another team, they were looking at the net run rate, and how that would play such an important role. And clearly, the way they kind of, chased down the total in just 11.4 overs showed intent, right? They clearly wanted to get those 2 crucial points. They had a very tough loss in the first match. So, bouncing back was very important. So, to answer your question, yes, West Indies does look very formidable. They look, like we were discussing in our previews as well, one of the dark horses. So, they're kind of justifying that tag as well. And, they have some exciting matches coming up. There's so much to look forward to. West Indies is one team you definitely not just, put aside, because they have the capability. And I think today's match just gave us an indication of the same. Because even looking at the run chase, they were chasing what, a paltry 100. They had moments where, things were going into a panic. They were like 59 for 4, and there were quick wickets falling here and there, yet they had someone stand up and deliver, right? That's where Chinelle Henry's that knock of 18 actually puts a lot of things in perspective. You had someone in your middle order who could actually deliver at a strike rate of 180, which was really great to see. And in that sense, I think West Indies is now kind of just coming together as a unit. Their bowling unit has performed really well. The batting unit is finding its own space. So I think good signs for the West Indies, and let's see how they fare in their remaining group stage matches.
Yeah, for sure. Good signs for West Indies. But now it's time for us to move on and talk about a game where there aren't too many good signs for, of course, Team India. It is time for us to talk about it. Already quite a few comments there. We will take them up as and when, of course, we come across it. But again, India-Pakistan rivalry is aside. The game itself, just to put things, just for the uninitiated, of course, I don't think anyone living under a rock wouldn't know about this, but फिर भी ठीक है. Pakistan winning the toss, opting to bat first in the scorching heat of the bye. Did not really get going once again. Renuka Singh started off brilliantly in the power play, got one to move in, and then just, of course, get a bit of movement off the surface as well, importantly, which is what led to the downfall of Gul Firoza in the beginning. And from there, Pakistan never really took off, to be honest. Nida Dhar was the highest run scorer for them, 28 of 34. Took her time to stay there, ensured that Pakistan were able to breach the 100-run mark. Unfortunately, Fatima Sana ka naam yahan pe nahi hai, but that 13 of 10 could potentially have become yet another 30 of 20 kind of knock in helping Pakistan go to 130 even. And should that have been the case, yeah, you could well and truly say that India would have struggled there. But thanks to a blinder of a catch from Richa Ghosh standing up to the stumps, she ensured that India weren't having none of that. So 105 for 8. Arundhati Reddy was the pick of the bowlers with a 3 for. Shriyanka Patil, 2 for 12 in her 4 over spell, was solid once again. Renuka Singh, Asha Shubhna also wasn't too bad with the ball. But again, a lot of things to be said about her efforts in the field. India, in reply, 108 for 4. Sure, again, looks good. 6 wickets se higher. Jeet hum log, so that's not a bad sign. But they took 18.5 overs, especially the way they batted in the power play. Shafali Verma, Smriti Mandana, both of them couldn't really get going. Smriti at one point was at 6 of 13. Shafali at one point was at 8 of 17. Wahan se finally Shafali was able to pick up a gear or two, and she ended with 32 of 35, but again, not enough, especially given the fact that they had received a proper thumping off the hands of New Zealand. So they knew their net run rate is down in the doldrums. They have to get it up. Minus 1.9, so they've only managed to get it up to minus 1.3, which isn't good enough, which is why they're still below Pakistan. Despite having defeated them, they're still ranked number 4 in the points table of Group A. Lots to talk about. Let's first start off with the comments itself, of course. Janvi, of course, addressing Sida, matlab, Janvi is not taking anything else. Jebby batted at number 3. We all spoke about this yesterday. Ki in all likelihood, Herman will continue batting at number 3 because aisa bada punt liya, they would want to double down on it. They wouldn't want it's a bit of an ego thing, and also they would want to back their their intuition, so to say. But Jeet, in some sense, it's not the worst of moves. They realize their folly. They realize that they have to go back on it. They did send Jemmy a 3. What did you make of that whole switcheroo that happened in game number 2?
Everything is still puzzling to me. I'm still not able to understand because it's not really an upgrade in terms of quick starts, right? Jimmy also is in that same category of a slow starter. So you're not making a massive upgrade as far as that's concerned. It's just that Harman is a lot slower than Jimmy, man. That's the only difference that was there. And probably form also being one of the two things that we can consider or we can look at. But otherwise, it's still puzzling to me. It's completely puzzling because whether you go for Jemima or you go for Harmanpreet, what are you trying to get out of it? That's a big question. Because if you want to maximize upon the power play when you lose your first wicket very early, then you're not going to be able to do that with that number 3. It doesn't matter who it is. So what they're trying to do is something I'm not quite able to understand. And I think that is where India kind of needs to draw insights from what Australia have been doing. Georgia Verem at number 3. Just imagine Georgia Verem. I know she's technically good and she's terrific in terms of clearing the boundary, towards long on and in that region of mid wicket as well. So they are open to doing something like this. And it's not that Georgia Verem is a regular number 3. She has been batting at number 3 just recently against in that Bangladesh series that took place. Australia are testing quite a few things. And from there on, they've identified that, if we need quick runs, and maybe they've also identified that, power play is a very, very important phase of the game. So you need to get those runs, you need to get those boundaries. And that's why Georgia Verem is their answer, not Elise Perry. So why not pick up something from what Australia are doing? Because you had picked Sajna Sachivan. So what's the point? What's the point is something I've never been able to understand. And my questions still remain the same. You've got Yastika Bhatia, you've got Dayal and Hemlata, both of whom are a solution for number 3. But come at the main tournament or the warm-up, your solution to the number 3 struggles are Harmanpreet, who's slower, Jemima, who's slower. So it's been completely baffling and I've not been able to understand. Jemima delivered the way she did, but फिर भी strike rate तो वही था. Power play पे भी maximize नहीं कर पाया. Eventually also, we took, I think, 19 overs to chase it down. So we have not been really benefiting from this. So you've still got to question them. Like I mentioned, I'm not going to point my finger at them. I just need to understand what their thinking is. And that's what I would hope that reporters ask the questions. It doesn't matter who comes out. I know they've been throwing in Arundhati Reddy for the press conference, post-match press conference. Jenny came out. But the day it is Harmanpreet who walks out, or the day when it is Amol Mazumdar who walks out, these are the questions that need to be asked by journalists.
इसलिए they're smarter, they're one step ahead of you. भेजेंगे नहीं, अगर भेजेंगे नहीं तो सवाल नहीं आएंगे,
नहीं आएगा
तो जवाब नहीं देना पड़ेगा.
एक और मैच जीतने तो आएंगे बाहर वो भी. Just one more match, one more win.
No, but that's a fair point. I like promoting Sajna to 3 because clearly they're not valuing her batting right now. They're like, ek chahiye apne ko someone because Pooja Vastrakar isn't going to play. They just want an 11th player. It's almost like they're trying to make up the numbers because Sajna did not get to bowl. She did not have to bat. So chal kya raha, what exactly is the role? We're not sure. So given that, just tell her you don't have to put a price on your wicket. Go in, do your thing. Just even if you're able to score a 5-ball 10, that's good enough. Because तुम वैसे भी बैटिंग करनी ही नहीं वाली, उससे अच्छा 5 बॉल में 10 रन लाके दे तो होंगे, खत्म बात. But clearly India aren't looking at it that way. They're looking at things differently. But again, Neha, in terms of how the performance was, let's just take this comment from Parth as well. Questions need to be asked of Smriti, who's never performed well in ICC events. I was just looking at it right now. Average 37 in the last event, average 37 in the 2018 event as well. So aisa nahi ki she's not performed at all. Sure, has not got off to the greatest of starts, but all in all, yeah, that power play itself, like, it was just so slow and so sad.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really troubling as an Indian fan or even as a cricket fan to, kind of watch this match. I understand that the match is happening in the afternoon, like the heat of Dubai is, of course, very daunting in that sense. But again, I think the key word here is clueless. What was India's strategy was just very baffling in that power play. We did not get any boundaries. It was just becoming extremely difficult to understand why aren't you in rotating strike? Matlab, kya ho raha hai? The dot balls were just piling on. It was not like we were chasing a massive total, right? It was just what, like 105 or like 106, right? So in that sense, it felt a little questionable, like what was exactly happening. Like India had such a great day with the ball. There was some confidence. The body language seemed to be exuding confidence much better than that from the New Zealand encounter. But then the batting effort just didn't make sense. And even talking about Jemima at coming in at number three, I think I differ from Jeet slightly here because it's a very small sample size to kind of be like she's not that ideal number three, because I think today the match situation was very different. We lost that wicket as well, and then she was coming in at a point where you kind of had to just bat it out and see how things would go. But again, I don't know, like I've been just looking at Sajna, like the whole point of bringing her in was to probably just give her a few overs, have her as a finisher as well. But if you don't even want to use her as a floater, there it's just very very confusing. Like what is the exact strategy that they're trying to employ? But today, I think when the run chase was happening, the mindset should have been net run rate at like all points, because you were not chasing that big of a total, and Pakistani bowlers were not challenging you that much. I think it was just a lot of a barrier with the mindset that kind of did not ensure we finished off that chase earlier, and it just became such a dragged contest, which was very very unnecessary.
But yeah, again, even if the Pakistani bowlers are bowling well, that cannot be an excuse, right? Like, तुम अगर intent दिखाते हो, like if you're getting out trying to hit a ball, outside the boundary, fair, ठीक है, तुमने कोशिश की, तुम out हो गए. What's the point कि तुम 15 बॉल खेल के 8 रन बना के फिर डिफेंड करते ही आउट हो गए, तो फिर फायदा क्या हुआ? अगर आउट होना ही है, might as well go the whole hog, man. Just go the whole distance and see if something comes out of it. And again, this is a side with decent batting depth. It's not like before कि बस अपनी batting खत्म हो जाती है. We don't have too many batters, so we'll have to ensure कि someone's. वो भी नहीं है भाई. You've got Sajna waiting in the wings. Arundhati Reddy can handle herself. Asha Shubhna bats in the middle order for Railways. So hey, you've got batting options. Shriyanka, we haven't even taken her name. Shriyanka's batting at number 10. तो फिर किस बात का टेंशन है? Like चल क्या रहा था? It was genuinely beyond bizarre, to say the least, because sure, okay, sometimes that happens. So Smriti mentioned how that they weren't able to time the ball well. On the other hand, I felt Smriti was timing the ball really well. Unfortunately, the ball was going straight to the fielders. ठीक है, everyone has those days. तो क्या हुआ? बाकी के बैटर्स को क्या हो गया यार? तुम आउट हो गई वैसे, ठीक है, तो बाकी का क्या? Like, again, just too many questions, not enough answers. Not sure again, because net run rate is going to play a very big role, given that this is being labeled the group of death. They have a game against Sri Lanka, who won't be easy opponents that way, and then there's Australia waiting for us next Sunday. Pavan, meanwhile, asking us, can India qualify for the semis? Of course, they can. They still can. They're still in the hunt. It's just a very long equation. But given that we saw RCB do what they did 6 months ago, we can still be optimistic कि है, chance तो है boss. बाकी अभी आप देख लो कि भरोसा रखना है. Do you want to follow them and hope that they win? Should they defeat Australia? I'm just trying to be as practical as possible. You would want to imagine Australia will be able to defeat New Zealand, and then you have to be a bit more optimistic and hopeful that Pakistan, Sri Lanka may say every team हरा दी New Zealand को, which is not beyond the realm of possibilities. Both these teams have defeated New Zealand in a bilateral series for the first time in the last 12 months. So clearly they've got the potential. They can do that. So you never know. You never know. So that it's still possible. It's still in the realm of possibilities. We don't have to say it's impossible. मतलब हो ही नहीं सकता है अभी भी, but मतलब उतना अच्छा चांस नहीं जितना हो सकता था अगर वो न्यूजीलैंड के सामने इतनी गंदी तरीके से भी ना हारते. हारना अलग बात है, अगेन इतने बुरी तरीके से हारे कि बॉस क्या ही करे. तो लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंस देयर. Nikhil meanwhile saying, hey guys, GG on the coverage. Thank you so much, Nikhil. Thoughts on why India kept swapping fielders multiple times within the same over for a batter? Okay, that's an interesting observation. Not sure I followed it, but in general, again, Jeet, you want to start off? Why would anyone do that?
I'm not too sure about what this is because I didn't spot it, but I don't know whether a right hand left hand combination wala tha ya certain spots were being changed or tinkered around. I'm not too sure since I didn't observe that, so can't answer that.
Fair. What I did observe or not observe, what this is basically stealing someone else's observation. I remember reading somewhere that apparently Renuka Singh Thakur in the power play was being made to. So, एक तो power play, मतलब ball भी कर रही है, simultaneously she's being made to field in the deep mid wicket fence जहाँ पे वो भाग भी रही है. And this was under the sun. It was 38 degrees. God knows which genius came up with this field plan कि उसको भगाते भी उससे bowling भी same time पे कराते हैं. And that seemed like, if that is true, then that's again very stupid. Like, this is field placements 101 कि अगर कोई बॉल डाल रहा है उसको रिंग में रखो, उसको पास रखो, ताकि they don't have to expend a lot of energy unless they are one of your फील्डर. मतलब अगर तुम्हारी साइड की बेस्ट फील्डर है तो ठीक है, देन यू हैव नो ऑप्शन करना. रेणुका सिंह ठाकुर इज नोवेयर क्लोज टू बीइंग आवर बेस्ट फील्डर. तो ये क्यों हो रहा था पता नहीं. But yeah, that was an interesting observation, Nikhil. We will sort of try and keep an eye out for it next time, and we will let you know अगर कुछ पता चलता है. SVK, of course, only the coach and captain can answer this, referring to, of course, the whole slowness and all of that. I mean, the net run rate was obviously discussed, but they did not bring that to the ground. Yeah, you don't have to look too further back in time. West Indies को ही देख लो यार. Same day West Indies को भी net run rate का ख्याल रखना था. किया ना उन्होंने. I know. People can sort of argue saying Scotland है, weakish bowling attack. भाई इंटेंट की बात हो रही है. तुम सिक्स मतलब बाउंड्रीज मारने के चक्कर में आउट होते तो अलग बात है. We can still understand that. We would still sort of be with you, sympathize with you. Now we're at the point where we can't even say कि हाँ ठीक है, at least idea तो सही था. Idea ही गलत है तो फिर क्या ही बोले. So yeah, I mean it wasn't easy for us to sort of digest the win like this, so to say. Yeah, Jeet.
Yeah, but so at least Shafali was trying in the power play, but it's just that there were too many ground shots and they were being hit straight to the fielder, so we are not able to breach those gaps. And whenever she did, the outfield is so bad that the ball was not touching the boundary ropes. So that was another issue that took place. But that's what, like you mentioned, I mean, we could have drawn something out, or we can draw something out of what the West Indies did. ठीक है, gaps, ground shots नहीं जा रहे. Always go for aerial shots, right? Because that's what the West Indies did. Chinelle Henry, first ball or second ball, it was, right? She went aerial over long ball. So hit those aerial shots, but you need to have that intent, right? And again, coming back to the batting depth. Exactly, Kiana Joseph, she was also hitting it aerially. So you need to hit it aerially. Agar ground shots nahi ja rahe, or if you're not able to split the gap, or because of that horrible outfield that we've got at both venues, it's not going to the rope despite timing it superbly, then hit those aerial shots, right? It might as well cross the boundary. Even on one bounce, it will still go for a 4. So that's what we need to do. Those aerial shots need to come out. And again, batting depth is like, why do you have batting depth, right? This is something I discussed. Batting depth are for two reasons. A, in case you have a collapse where you lose 4-5 wickets, those extra batters come to good use at resurrecting your innings. Number two, you have the batting depth so that it allows your top 3 batters to bat very freely and very aggressively. And that's what I think Jimmy was not the answer to that. If NRR was something that they had on mind, they wouldn't have sent Jemima to do that. So I think it was, again, puzzling. So maybe some other options that they probably could have looked at over here. Sajna Sajeevan, I mean, I still think that she should be used as a pinch hitter. I didn't really expect her to bowl. वो मैं expect कर भी नहीं रहा था. We had 5 frontline bowlers and I expected them to do the job. If they struggle, then the 6th bowler could have been used, which could have been anybody. It could have been Sachna, it could have been Harmanpreet, it could have been Jemima. I don't know for that. But I was not really expecting her to do that. So just for finishing duties, you wouldn't have her in the side or wouldn't want to have her in the side. You'd want to squeeze out a lot more out of her. So too hard to understand what the logic has been of the Indian team management. Because playing 11 is something that the coach decides along with the captain. But when it comes to the batting order, it's the coach who calls the shots. So quite a few things here that need to be answered because it's been completely beyond me.
Yeah, and to be honest, even Pooja Vastrakar's injury and the way they've dealt with it, matlab, till yesterday, even in the pre-match presser, they went on to defend their call of giving Pooja just one over by saying, matlab, hota hai, matlab, because it's a T20 match. There are days when not every bowler gets a chance. So it was just a tactical call that we decided to not give her more overs and decided to bat her below Arundhati. And cut to today, we hear कि हाँ she's missing out because of a niggle. सीधा बोल देते कि niggle था, गलती हो गई हमसे कि हमने एक तो मैच खिलवाया. Like why did she have to play through that? No one knows. And why? Like who in their infinite wisdom decided it makes sense कि पूजा वस्त्रकार को इंजरी के साथ भी खिलाते, लेकिन एक बैकअप को भी सेम 11 में डाल के भेजते. तो मतलब भाई अकल घास चराने के लिए कि क्या हुआ है बॉस वहां पे, मेरे को समझ नहीं
खिलाते उसको एक और देते हैं, देखते हैं कैसे जाता है. अगर ऐसा लग रहा है इंजरी कंसर्न्स है तो शी विल नॉट बोल अगेन. That was the logic. और वही क्वेश्चन
who does that in an actual World Cup encounter? मैं गली क्रिकेट भी ऐसा ना करो. क्यों रिस्क लेना अगर नहीं हो रहा है तो? मतलब अगेन वर्ल्ड कप मैच है बॉस, चल क्या रहा है? बायलैटरल भी नहीं. It's not even the random bilateral that no one cares. It was just a bit much. So all in all, like we said, lot of questions, not enough answers. But the same cannot be said about Pakistan. हमने मतलब अच्छा खासा 20 मिनट स्पेंड किया इंडिया पे. Pakistan, again, kudos to them. A side that not a lot of people had hopes from because of the way they've shaped the batting, whatnot. And we've spoken about all of this even in our team previews. But again, Neha, very inspired performance from them. They were defending just 105, but they made a match out of it.
Absolutely. I think due credit to their bowling unit. We'll have to talk about Fatima Sana. I think another brilliant spell, just gave away, 23 runs, got you those 2 wickets. Was quite economical as well. So in that sense, wow, okay. Very impressed with with the way she was kind of, again, maneuvering all the field placements, getting her things, and actually putting India under pressure, because you're defending a small total. Sometimes most of the teams just throw in the towel and they're like, yeah, we can't probably do this. But I think the belief that she has in her unit and herself is just massive, right? And I think that really showed through in today's bowling performance. And Salia Iqbal is someone we've been talking about very highly as well. I think the way she came in and again kind of did her job, restricted the Indian batters, got you a wicket as well. I think that was fantastic to see. Excited to see how she kind of fares in the rest of the World Cup as well. And even looking at Omema Sohail, right? Like we did see her bowl a few balls. एक dead ball था, कहीं और जा रहा था, and all of that. Irrespective of all of that, I think she was still, bowling pretty well. At some points, it was looking like, okay, is she like low on confidence? Like what is happening? But in spite of that, I think we still got to see some good glimpses from her. So I think Pakistan's like biggest silver lining from this match, I think, has to be their bowling effort. I think in the like that post-match briefing as well, where she's talking to one of the presenters, Fatima Sana didn't look very sad that, oh, we lost the match. It clearly looked like she was proud of her unit. They put in a good fight, but India just ended up being maybe the slightly better team, in chasing down that total. I still think had Pakistan gone on to make, say a 120 or 130, I think things would have been really different. India would have been probably even more challenged, and probably, Pakistan's bowling attack would have stolen the limelight. So a lot of ifs, but I think Pakistan would definitely, pat their backs for this lovely bowling performance.
For sure, and like I mentioned earlier, I genuinely think Richa Ghosh's catch was the difference between India winning and losing. Because the more I think of it, Fatima Sana could have very easily done a 20 ball 30, easily, बहुत easily. So, and again, we saw that, like the way she's hitting, it's so good to see, and I'm very close to saying she's probably one of my new favorite players. Matlab, because she's such a multi-dimensional player, and it's not just about batting and bowling, even her fielding, the way she puts her body in, and of course, like Neha mentioned, captaincy, the way she was ringing the changes, and importantly, there were a couple of occasions where Nashra Sandhu, if I'm not wrong, got hit for a boundary, and you could see her. Matlab, she wasn't phased by it. She was more than happy to just, have a hand around her shoulder, just talk it out and understand what she's trying to do, what the idea is. It never seemed like she was losing her temper. And the same cannot be said about her Indian counterpart. We've lost count of how many times we've seen Harman lose her shit in front of live television. And again, it doesn't paint a good picture, right? When your own captain doesn't seem to trust you, naturally your confidence also goes down, and all of these intangibles definitely play a role. Jeet, adding to the whole bowling effort, you could almost see Nita bowled just the 1 over, and then she came right in the end, just for finishing touches. So you can almost say that this is now a Pakistan side that's performing more than decently without a Nida contribution, which wasn't the case for the longest time. And that's a very, very, very important thing because Nida's potentially playing her last T20 World Cup here.
Yeah, it's a very, very important thing. I mean, if youngsters are putting the hand up and chipping in game after game without Nida contributing so massively with the ball, then I think it's a very good sign for Pakistan. And we have always known, I mean, they've got a good blend of spinners and they are all quality. So it's not that something, which comes as, news to us because we've seen the kind of quality of spinners that they've had over the years as well. So right now also, everybody's chipping in really well. We talked about that combination of Sadia, Iqbal, and Nashra Sandhu in terms of phase coverage, wherein Sadia takes a new ball and she's impactful in that phase, whereas Nashra is more than useful once the park is done. So both are, doing a phenomenal job. Of course, we had also talked about Omaima Sohail, being an option with the off spin if required, if she plays, that is, which she has been, and she's been doing a decent job as well. So it's fantastic to see all these spinners, put their hand up and get the job done. Tuba Hasan as well, for that matter. I know Saida Arup Shah didn't have bowl tonight, but even she's a pretty decent bowler, a pretty decent wrist spinner as well. So they've got all the varieties covered and they are all pretty good as well, very, very disciplined. And they're smart operators. They all generate different sort of pace. They kind of operate at a different range of pace as well, but it's turning out to be effective for all of them. So it's really, really good to see them do that and that too without Nida having chipped in so much. Even it was Sadia Iqbal, right? Sadia Iqbal started over the wicket, around the wicket to Smriti Mandana. And I was like, it's probably not the right way to go because Smriti Mandana's struggle against left arm spin has been very different. So basically, you need to operate over the wicket and it's those arm balls. And just two balls into that particular line or that angle, Smriti Mandana has gone to that same sort of delivery. Even the first delivery, she was beaten of an arm ball. So good adjustment there. She was quick to think that because something is not working, plan A is not working. Let's switch to plan B, and she was rewarded with that. So it's very good to see things really working out for them as far as that spin attack is concerned.
Yeah, and it's very good for me as well because I did say Sadia Iqbal to Smriti Mandana. I can see her getting that wicket. But again, even there, one more bit to add. Kudos to Fatima Sana because, of course, Sadia Iqbal started the innings, bowled the very first over. Immediately, there was a change of ends. She next bowled the fourth over, which is when she got Smriti's wicket. Again, these are tiny little things that unless you are actually watching the game live in the stadium or you're focusing on it, you wouldn't observe. But again, these aren't changes that are coming from the think tank. I don't think the think tank has that much control over Cup kahan dala. So smart of her to understand that probably it was a bit, it had something to do with the breeze. It had something to do with, I don't know, the ends or the boundary dimensions. I'm not sure because today they were using a different strip from the other day, from Friday. So the other day there was one side that was very small compared. The leg side from one end was 53 meters and the leg side from the other was 63 meters. So clearly that disparity wasn't the case this time around. So I'm not sure what the specifics were, but good on her. And it resulted in a wicket immediately. So again, no one's complaining about it. So all in all, fantastic game for Pakistan. Lots to be happy about. Hopefully, once their batting improves, like we said about Scotland as well, now it's all about their batters, gaining this experience and improving from it. The likes of Muniba Ali have been here for a while. Just if they get more batters, somewhere at the top who can replace Nida there. If, like right now, I don't know if Sidra Amin and Gul Firoza are the answers they're looking for. But whoever it is, ek baar wo answers milne lag jaye, so they will become a much better side. So fingers crossed for them as well. So that's that from the first game. We'll just take this last comment and then move on to what's coming up tomorrow. Shubha says, why is Jeet blaming the Jemmy situation? Okay, why is Jeet blaming Jemming's situation? He aisa tha. We can't deny that she had been the best number 3 for India this whole season. She played at number 5. Now all of a sudden the management ne usse number 3 pe bheja. That's a fair point again. Ki pata hai number 5 pe khela, achanak se number 3 pe आओगे, thoda adjust karna padta hai. I don't think he's blaming it on Jemmy. That's not the case here, but the management has to be accountable, right? Like they are answerable. कि ये change इतना last minute हुआ क्यों? मतलब अगर ये करना ही था तो पहले से क्यों नहीं किया? और अगर ये नहीं करना था तो पहले तुमने contingency सोच के क्यों नहीं रखा? You've gone ahead with 2 number 3s. This is what Jeet also said, right? Like you've gone ahead with the likes of Yastika and Hemlata in the squad. You've given Hemlata enough chances. Yastika is coming off an injury. अगर तुम्हें यूज नहीं करना था तो फिर चल क्या रहा है? Like why is she a part of the squad if you're not going to bring her into the 11 and make her bat in number 3? She could potentially be the solution to your problems, but no one knows the answers to that. So Fair enough, Shubha. I mean, मतलब आप अपनी जगह सही हो. It's just that I don't think Jeet is trying to blame the player here. Of course not. She is who she is. She's the kind of player, and she's won us enough games this year. So, not complaining for sure. Anyways, that was that from the India-Pakistan game. Earlier, we also spoke about the West Indies-Scotland encounter. In case you're joining us right now, please make sure you check that out as well. And guys, once again, like always, please hit the like button and please make sure you subscribe to us if you haven't already. Time for us to look ahead. It is a Monday, and it's going to be a scintillating Monday because it's England taking on South Africa. Virtual knockout is how we labeled it during the team previews, and it is going to stay that way. I don't think any of the results change that. Neha, let's start with you on this. England versus South Africa. England coming off a fairly, you would say close win, and not the kind of victory they would have liked against a side like Bangladesh. This time around, they're playing South Africa. The game's coming live, of course, from Sharjah, and it's live at 7:30 p.m. So tomorrow is going to be the first single game day, so to say. So it's only one game. It's happening in the evening. But Neha, let's start off with you. Sharjah mein game hai. Kya lag raha hai? What are your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at England and South Africa, I mean, both of them are, coming from wins. So there is a certain amount of confidence, heading into this encounter. I think we have talked enough about how South Africa has like a slightly weaker spin attack. So let's see how Laba kind of, is able to make the most of the conditions. But looking at England, they went with what a four-pronged, spin attack, right? They had Sarah Glenn, they had Sophie Eccleston, Charlie Dean, and Lindsay Smith. So I'm quite excited to see how these spinners fare in Sharjah conditions, because I think if you listen to any of the England pressers, all they talk about is the heat and the conditions and how it's kind of taking a toll on their players, which is definitely a valid point, something we have to take into consideration. But now they've had the experience of playing, like they had a lot of pre-camps also in Abu Dhabi, and they have some experience playing in Sharjah as well. So I think England does come in with that slight advantage because they have such a stellar spin attack, and they can challenge South Africa in conditions that are slightly getting familiar for them. So definitely a very interesting encounter on cards. I think England would want to go for the win, because that really would set them up beautifully in the group they find themselves in, Group B. So yeah, just looking forward to that match and seeing how the South African batters fare against the England spinners.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. The England spinners look to worth their weight in gold. They were just class. And it was against Bangladesh, sure, but against Sharjah ki conditions, that they will, be at their best, and they would want to ensure they get a victory here. But Jeet, sticking to South Africa's spin attack, what was Chloe Tryon Sunel's to accompany Malaba? Do you see a change happening there? Because they have four pacers. I know three of them are all-rounders, and it's just one frontline pacer and Ayabonga Kaka. But do you see any of, Aniri Dirksen potentially going out to bring in that extra spin off someone like Seshni Naidu, just because they don't have enough spin options, enough quality spin options?
Yeah, that was exactly my thought, because you need spinners here. It's a very, very clear thing. If the pattern is anything to go for in the night games that we've had so far, they need spinners. It can't really work out with just Don Kululeko Malaba being a lead spinner, and then Chloe Tryon is not somebody you'd really put your money on, or Sunil Lees is not spinner. So you need quality spinners. And that's where again the issue is that Seshni Naidu is not experienced. She's very young as well, and very raw when it comes to international cricket. So that's where they have got that challenge. So whether she comes in place of a pacer, it has to be Aniri Dirksen. But if you take out Aniri Dirksen, it leaves you with one less batter. So you need that batting depth, because your opponent is England. And now England have got quality spinners A to Z. So you are going to lose wickets. You will need that batting depth to actually come to a great use, to come to a great effect. So if you make that switch, then I think that is where they'll be affected. So I'll potentially not make that change, purely because I know Dirksen can still add value with the bat. So I mean, that's the only reason. Otherwise, they'll be messed up with the kind of tail enders that they'll be left with. They'll have Malaba, they'll have Ayabonga Kaka, and they'll have Seshni Naidu. So exactly. So they'll end up with three out-and-out bowlers who can't completely chip in with the bat. So it could be a slight issue. But if you really want to go aggressive, then I don't really mind Seshni, because at the end of the day, it's a different variation that she adds to the variety, and it might as well work out. But anyway, when you weigh the two spin attacks, there is a huge difference right now. There is a huge gap between the two sides. So South Africa will have to select their own way, whether they want to go aggressive with Seshni Naidu or compromise on their batting depth and stick with not compromise on the batting depth and just stick with Aniri Dirksen, not make any change whatsoever. So that's the fine balance that they'll have to kind of look forward to over here.
To be honest, I would personally stick with go for the former and bring in Seshni Naidu. I know I genuinely want to watch more of Dirkson's batting exploits, but against this English bowling attack, I don't think she'll be able to add enough value. And moreover, this is an English side with 11 right-handed batters. So you want decent options who can take the ball away from them. And given that, I know Chloe Tryon, Malaba, both of them can do that. Tryon, is an option, sure, on paper, yeah, she is an option, but you can't expect her to be your frontline spinner, so to say. That's Malaba, sure. You would want someone like a Naidu, although I haven't seen her use too many of her googlies. I don't know if she has a googly in her repertoire, but अगर तुम stock delivery भी अच्छे से डालते हो शारजा जैसी जगह पे, you will get rewards. So I hope they are able to do something like that, and I feel that's an aggressive option. I personally am a big fan of aggression. That way, tactically, I want teams to be aggressive. There's no point trying to play it safe because this is the T20 format. You have to try and maximize your rewards and how you can sort of maximize the productivity or efficiency of your bowling attack. I guess this is the best way of doing that, but fair shout either ways. I wouldn't blame them. Neha, now coming to England as well. Like I said, 11 right-handers. We've spoken earlier about how Priya Kim could potentially be an option they can slot in. Thoda value mil sakta hai unko. Unhone liya nahi. They went for an extra spinner in Lindsay Smith, if I may say so. But do you expect them to, continue unchanged tomorrow?
I think yes, they will kind of go unchanged because although they didn't probably have the best of the batting outings, they still had such a remarkable time with the ball. I think also just looking at Sharjah and the conditions again, a lot will just depend on the toss, who wins the toss, who's batting first. And England, if they go in with the kind of attack they have, they go in unchanged. I think it's advantage England at any given point in time. South Africa also doesn't really perform that well against spinners. You get those early wickets. I think things would really ease up for England in chasing, a smaller target as well. And I think even Tasman Brits, I think Jeet would also be able to talk better on this, kind of takes her time, to settle in, goes into a shell as well. And I think this is something that England can definitely exploit if, South Africa is batting first, have, a great power play, and then see how that kind of, transitions to the rest of the match as well. So, yeah, a lot of interesting things to see.
Yeah, Jeet, you go first.
I think there is a chance that England might look to add Priya Kim for this particular game ahead of Danny Gibson because Danny Gibson was not utilized with the ball, and with the bat also it was not that effective a knock. And England would have identified that what's working over here are those cutters or somebody who's got multiple variations as a pacer. That's when Nat Serbrant ended up bowling a full quota, and that's exactly what even Priya Kim can do. And besides that, of course, the left-handed option as well that they'll get. So right now they've got only Lindsay Smith as a left-hand batter who's decent. She's not somebody who cannot bat at all. She's a decent option as well. In fact, there have been instances where she has opened as well for her domestic side. So she's more than handy. I think even the WBBL she had opened from what I recollect for the Melbourne Stars. So she's decent with the bat, but still Priya Kim is a lot more aggressive option to go for. And of course, Chloe Tryon, Non-Kululeko Malaba as well in the opposition ranks. So I think there might be that one change that could potentially take place because had Gibson bowled a few overs and actually been really effective with what has really worked out over there, then maybe things could have been different. But we know that high pace is not really something that's going to quite work out over here. Maybe a left arm angle who can bowl cutters, can bowl yorkers could be potentially a better way to go about things or better way of approach at Sharjah in the night game. So there could be that change that might come into the effect tomorrow.
Interesting. And just to add to the Tasman Brits point as well, I think, Sharjah is a kind of surface that Tasman Brits could actually be not a bad option, so to say, for South Africa if she's able to sort of stick it in and just play, because I feel she's, I want to say, more comfortable muscling spinners compared to a moving ball and all of that. That's where her technique seems to be all at sea. She's not exactly well equipped. But I want to see how a surface like the Sharjah one, will sort of play. Given there are going to be a lot of spinners playing that lead, even in the power play, we saw that yesterday as well. So I feel Tasman Brits would, I wouldn't say enjoy, but she would probably prefer, and she can, come up with a much better performance relative to how, both sides are going to play there. And secondly, I feel Nadine de Klerk is also going to be key here. Cross seamers and all of that. If she's able to get her lengths right, I know she doesn't bowl slow enough, compared to say Ritu Moni who bowled. That's probably the ideal pace to bowl at a surface like this, early to mid 90s. Nadine, of course, is considerably quicker than that. But I feel her cross seamers and all of that, if she able to land it right in the middle length, back of length even sometimes, I guess she'll have a lot of impact there. Either of you want to add anything, or are we done? I'll just go to predictions then.
No, I agree. I think she does add a lot of value. That's why I was a little bit surprised that she was not utilized as much in the previous game. But TK, it was a different venue. Dubai made, we saw how the conditions were. Maybe that was one of the reasons why she did not, perhaps roll her arm over as much as we would have expected. But yeah, she could be a very, very handy option at Sharjah. By what's not even Renuka Singh's wobble seam at 98, 99 worked today. So Sharjah may, on those kind of tracks which are slightly stickier than the Dubai tracks, I think she could be a very, very good option. And Nadine de Klerk, again, that middle phase is where she can capitalize upon when bowling in tandem with somebody like Nonkul Leko Malaba. So I think that's a good option that South Africa can look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. And let's hope Renuka also gets a fifer against Australia, because that's the only game they're playing in Sharjah. Please, fifer Lelo Renuka, and you will be absolved of all your sins, including the ones you committed. I mean, not against, but yeah, against RCB, so to say. But anyways, that's that for in terms of our preview for the game tomorrow, which is England taking on South Africa in Sharjah. Last bit of prediction time. Jeet, let's start with you. क्या लग रहा है कौन जीतने वाला England versus South Africa? It's in Sharjah. Go for it.
It looks very lopsided to me, and this is probably that first game where it is looking very, very lopsided in favor of England. Not only because, of course, they've got that one experience out of the way of playing at Sharjah. They know how the conditions are. They know what's really working over here in terms of lengths, the pace at which to operate, how to go about as a batting unit as well, because we saw them capitalize upon the power play in the previous game. Whereas, of course, South Africa playing in Dubai, they will be facing or playing on a pitch which is slightly trickier. And that spin attack as well, like I mentioned, I mean, that when you compare the two spin attacks, there is a huge difference in terms of quality, in terms of the options, in terms of the variety. And that is where I feel England are very strong favourites for this particular game.
Fair enough. Neha, what about you?
Yeah, I think quite similar to Jeet, when I'd go with England, because they would be coming in with a point to prove, right? We've seen what happened in the last World Cup. I still remember the sights of, England feeling really bad that they lost to South Africa. So they would definitely, want to get that advantage with this match and actually just go for the win. They have a stellar spin attack there. Batting hopefully will, kind of come through. And South Africa is still kind of, finding their own under the captaincy of Laura Wolford. But right now, I think England, definitely looks like the stronger unit. So I'd go with England. Would be happy if, a surprise happens and, South Africa can pull off, a great win. But yeah, going with England for this one.
Yeah, I'll play the devil's advocate here. Yeah,
Sorry, just one more thing to add. Let's not forget that it only takes one spin of Marizan Cup in the power play to win you games. And this is where she could actually come in really handy with the new ball, with her wobble seam, especially those deliveries that end up, cutting back into the right-handers. And with an English 11, which is 10 right-handers and just one left-hander, it might as well come in really, really handy. So if the conditions are favorable, if the pitches continue to behave the way they have, then it's only going to take one spell from Marizan Cup to put South Africa ahead at the halfway mark.
Yeah, fair enough. And to be honest, like I said, I will be going contrary, not for the sake of it. I generally think South Africa stand a chance. Also because their batting against spin has been, better than, most teams, so to say. So they would want to try and outbat England. So the way I'm looking at it optimistically, their ideal case situation is win the toss, bat first, make the most of that first innings and try and get to a 140 somehow. Yaar. Just kar lo. Kaise bhi kar le, cameos ho, kuch ho, Laura Wolford right at the top. So if they are able to go past that 140 run mark, I think they stand more than just a decent chance, because it won't be easy for England batting second. I know South Africa might not have the best of spinners, but that's still an above par total for them. So that'll be a bit of cushion. So yeah, let's see how that pans out tomorrow, of course. So that's that from us today. Of course, it's a Sunday night. It's already Monday morning. It's 12:02. At least that's what my clock says. Tomorrow we'll also be live at 8 o'clock. It's Monday Night Live. It is of course, going to be a routine like always. So we'll be there as well. Nikhil Bhai, Avnish and I will be talking a lot of things. We'll also hear their thoughts on the Women's World Cup and what's happened so far. And also a couple of IPL related updates that supposedly have happened. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us. Thank you so much for tuning in. All you folks, please, all of you, even on Twitter, please make sure you're coming here on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and then, of course, you can spread the love to some of your other friends as well. Until then, it's a goodbye. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye bye. See you.